Hello there, Wastelanders, and welcome back to another episode of Better Know a Faction, a series where I break down the special rules and tactics for different factions in Fallout Wasteland Warfare. This time around, we're taking a look at a faction that I love to hate, the Raiders. The Wasteland would be a much less interesting place to live without these roaming gangs of chem-addicted psychopaths to deal with. Raiders are everywhere in the Fallout universe, and they can usually be found getting up to no good, causing troubles for survivors, terrorizing settlements, or getting all jacked up on all manner of chems. They tend to represent the worst parts of humanity in the Fallout video games, and they make for a pretty formidable force on the tabletop. When playing as the Raiders in Wasteland Warfare, there is definitely safety in numbers, and you're probably going to want to take advantage of chems and swarm tactics to make the most out of this faction's special rules. Chems are diminishing effect items, which means they wear off over time as game rounds wind down. Chems can have all sorts of effects, including modifying statistics, increasing quick actions, or adding special dice to attacks, and that sort of thing. Chems usually only last 3 rounds, but when using a Raider faction model as your leader, the final round of an active chem lasts for 1 additional round for any of your Raider faction models. Now, this special rule allows your Raider units to keep riding that high, benefiting from chems longer than other factions. But choose your chems wisely, as some also have negative effects, which will also last 1 round longer for any of your Raider faction keyword units. On top of their chem special rule, Raider faction models don't need line of sight when charging to engage a model which you're already engaged with another friendly model. So this rule can come in handy when running a melee-focused squad, especially if your opponent is trying to hide behind cover to avoid swarms of charging psychos. Now that we've covered the 2 Raider special rules, let's take a look at the different units in this faction and examine some of their strengths and weaknesses. There are 3 different types of basic units in this faction: Raiders, Psychos, and Scavers, and each type has both a standard and an outlaw version of their stat cards. The outlaw variants tend to be worse in combat overall compared to their standard counterparts, but outlaws make for better objective runners because these variants gain the ability to make expertise tests as quick actions. And on top of that, they get boosts to their objective-based stats. The basic Raider is fairly average across the board. Like most standard units in this faction, they only have 4 hit points. They don't really have a specialty, but they make for an affordable jack-of-all-trades infantry unit at 39 caps. Both their search and shoot skills are based off a perception of 4, giving them about a 40% base chance to hit overall. And no one ever accused Raiders of being too bright, as they lockpick on a pretty low score of 3 based on their intelligence. But what they lack in brains, they make up for in brawn with 2 physical and energy armor. They make their melee attacks off an agility of 5, which means they are slightly better bruisers than they are shooters, with a 45% chance to hit in melee combat. With those middle-of-the-road combat stats, it's not a bad idea to give them a weapon that utilizes green dye to increase their chance to hit. My chem of choice for the standard Raider is going to be Comax. It gives them a +1 to hit with ranged weapons for all 4 turns that the chem is active, and a +3 diminishing boost to their melee skill. Orange Mentats also get an honorable mention for Raiders because it gives them a +1 to hit with ranged weapons, a free quick action on the first round, and access to shooting quick attack actions across all 4 rounds the chem is active. For their Outlaw variant, Raider Outlaws take a hit to their agility compared to the standard Raider, bringing its base melee chance to hit down to 40%, and they also lose 1 point of energy armor. But while their combat skills go down, Raider Outlaws get a nice bump to their lockpicking ability thanks to an increased intelligence of 5. They also gain the ability to hack, which isn't too bad, although they only succeed off a low luck skill of 2. My chem of choice for the Raider Outlaw is going to be Mentats. It's going to make them a top tier lockpicking unit, and it gives them a decent boost to search tests as well as shooting skills. As mentioned, I find Raiders work best in swarms, and Psychos are the perfect unit to use when looking to disrupt your opponent's gameplay. These are my go-to unit in any Raider list because of their better than average melee skills, hitting on an agility of 7. They also score a direct hit with thrown items based off that agility of 7, which makes them scary good when rushing up the battlefield, throwing Molotovs along the way. On top of their melee skills, Psychos are more than half decent shooters with a perception of 5, making them more accurate than the standard Raider, but they're only limited to pistols, whereas Raiders can use both pistols and rifles. Psychos have an impressive move distance of red and a charge distance of green, and with a low cost of just 45 base caps, they are a cheap and reliable unit that you can use to tie up enemy objective runners or any other unit that you want to give a hard time. And because of the Raider faction line of sight special rule, it's never a bad idea to double or triple up on your Psychos to make sure that you can charge into combat without actually having to see everyone on the board. Like the standard Raider, they have just 4 hit points, but their armor isn't half bad with 2 physical resistance. You might be tempted to beef them up with some armor, but their lightly armored special rule makes this prohibitive because any worn armor actually nerfs their movement and their charge speed. Their urban special rule lets them auto-succeed on their first climb test in any round, so they're agile at the cost of not being able to wear any sort of power armor ever. My chem of choice for Psychos is, go figure, Psycho. Their namesake chem will add a black die when making melee attacks for the first 2 rounds, and an impressive diminishing armor boosts on every turn. Fury also gets an honorable mention here, and it adds 1 additional guaranteed melee damage across all 4 rounds, and adds 2 base physical and energy armor on the first 2 rounds. If you choose either of these chems, you're going to be dealing out more melee damage in a fist fight, and you're going to increase their survivability, which is never a bad idea because they tend to go down a little quickly. When looking at their variant, Psycho Outlaws lose 1 point of agility and 1 point of physical armor, but they double their intelligence from 2 to 4 for lockpick tests. And they also gain the ability to hack, even though they again only succeed on that low luck of 2. If running Psycho Outlaws as objective runners, Barry Mentats do a great job of increasing both their intelligence for lockpicking tests and perception search tests, as well as increasing their chance to hit with pistol attacks. If Psychos are your fighters, then Scavers are your shooters. They're more pricey at 60 caps, but they hit on an impressive 7 using both pistols and rifles. And they also search off that high perception stat, making them better than average shooters and looters. They're also tougher than Raiders or Psychos with 5 hit points and have that same armor rating of 2 for both physical and energy damage. They're not as accurate with thrown items compared to their Psycho pals, but they do have a longer range of blue compared to the Psycho and Raiders' range of green. Their melee skills aren't great with an agility of 4, but they are the most versatile standard unit in the Raider faction, gaining the ability to use big guns hitting on a strength of 4. Buff tats are a fun chem to use with Scavers to increase their chance to hit with all types of ranged attacks, as well as increasing their intelligence. The Scaver Outlaw, on the other hand, loses 1 point of perception, but gains 2 points of intelligence, making them a great choice for an objective runner that can still hold their own in a firefight. Barry Mentats again make the list here, and they're my pick to use with Scavers because of their boost to all expertise tests and an added chance to hit with ranged weapons. Before moving on to some of the more specialized and unique units in the Raider faction, it's a good thing to remember that Raiders also have access to dogs. While they're not a Raider-specific unit, dogs make for a great choice in a Raider list because of their huge charge range. But because dogs don't have that Raider keyword on their card, they don't benefit from the faction's line of sight special rule, but it's never a bad idea to take a doggo or 2 along with your crew. If you're having issues with your Raider units being a little too squishy, then the Raider Veteran is the unit for you. Veteran Raiders are extra tanky with 7 hit points, and they have the best defense in the faction with 3 physical, 3 energy, and 1 radiation armor. They're below average shooters, hitting on a perception of 4, but they're comparable to the Psycho when it comes to melee skills with an agility of 7. They're subpar when it comes to objective-based skills, succeeding on 4s across the board, but they are scary good with thrown weapons, hitting on an agility of 7 with a range of blue. Veterans are the big gunners in this faction with a strength of 6 and become even more deadly when putting them in a suit of Raider power armor, increasing their strength to 8 and their hit points to 9. Now, keep in mind that Raider Power Armor technically lowers the overall physical and energy resistances of veterans by 1, but it adds a +1 strong armor bonus while jacking up their radiation skills to 4. So the gaining of that +1 really makes a difference here when it comes to survivability. Veterans also get a +2 strength bonus when using Raider Power Armor, which actually increases their strength to 8. And because any unit with a strength of 7 or higher gets an extra black die on melee attacks, Raider Power Armor is going to really increase the killing power of any of your vets. Now, keeping a Raider or Scaver nearby your veteran is never a bad idea because of their Meat Shield special rule. This allows vets to transfer any damage that they take from an attack to an unengaged friendly model within orange range and within line of sight, but only as long as the veteran is also unengaged. Now, you can only use this special rule once per battle, so make sure you time it wisely. Veterans also benefit from the Bushcraft special rule, which means that, just like super mutants, they use the cooked effect of any food items they find in a battle without having to use a cooking station back at a settlement, for example. That covers it for the standard units in the Raider faction, so let's take a look at the unique options available to your Raiders and how you can use some of their special rules to buff the rest of your force. As of the filming of this video, there are currently 3 unique units in the Raider faction, all of which are also unique Raiders found in Fallout 4. I'm hoping that we see some more Raider bosses get added to the faction now that the New Vegas expansion for the game has been released, but we'll probably have to wait a little while for that. AckAck is first up on the list. She is the boss of the Raider gang holed up at the USAF station Olivia near Sanctuary Hills in Fallout 4. She has similar stat points to the veteran Raider with 7 hit points and 3 physical and energy armor, but AckAck is more of a shooter than a scrapper. She's the faction's best big gunner with a strength of 7 and has 2 special rules which are activated only when using a big gun. First is her Absorb Recoil special rule, and this allows her to treat any blank face on a black die as a -1 to her attack roll when using any big gun. Second, her Bullet Storm aura gives a +2 to friendly units within green range when making ranged attacks, but only when making that attack in the same turn after AckAck has made her big gun attack. So if you time it right, this ability can really increase the chance to hit on all of your Raider models, so long as they're within green range of AckAck. Her melee skills are very much below average with an agility of 3, but her high strength of 7 does give her that bonus black die when making close combat attacks. She's a decent objective runner, scoring on 5s across all 3 expertise skills, and she gets even more effective when taking a chem like Spark or Buff Tats. Sinjin is a ghoulified Raider, and he's the end boss of the Silver Shroud quest in Fallout 4. He is tough with 7 hit points and 3 physical and energy armor, and because of his ghoulification, he's also immune to radiation damage. Sinjin is one of the best shooters in this faction with a perception of 8, but he's limited to pistol attacks. And while he might not be able to use rifles, he does get a free silencer mod, which he can attach to 1 pistol in his inventory at the start of a battle. He's also a very effective objective runner, hacking on a 7 and searching on an 8, but he lacks the ability to make any lockpicking tests. Because of his Improvise special rule, when Sinjin activates, he can ready 1 friendly, non-unique model within blue range, but keep in mind that the readied model's actions are treated as quick actions once it does activate. He's also resistant to Battle Cry and has access to luck, and his Astute aura ability gives any friendly model within blue range an extra green effect die when making danger card tests. Last up for the unique Raiders is Avery, who's actually a lieutenant in Sinjin's crew. Like Sinjin, Avery is a crack shot with a perception of 8, and while Sinjin can only use pistols, Avery is limited to only rifles. She's not as tough as the other 2 unique Raiders with only 6 hit points, but she still has excellent damage resistances with both 3 physical and energy armor. She's above average when it comes to lockpicking and searching with an intelligence of 6, but she can't hack. She's resistant to stun, and her weak point ability turns 1 blank die into an armor break when making rifle attacks. Orange Mentats or Rebound would be my chem of choice for Avery. The Mentats make her even more effective at ranged attacks and give you access to shooting quick actions, while Rebound gives her a free quick action every turn in exchange for reduced charisma. Well, that about does it for this episode of Better Know a Faction, and hopefully this video has given you some ideas on how to put together your raider lists in the future. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think the best unit in this faction is, and if you like what you're seeing on WGNR, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the latest videos when they get released. You can also find WGNR on Instagram and Discord, so follow the links in the description below to get involved and join the conversation. Thanks for watching, and don't miss our next faction video when we're going back to the Mojave to break down Caesar's Legion. Stay tuned, WGNR will be back.